Hello and happy, beautiful day to you. Today, I want to talk about or answer a question that I've gotten so often over the years, and it's this. All of the time, people will ask the question, why do bad things happen to good people? Now, of course, it's not just bad things happening to good people. Bad things can happen to people who maybe haven't been the greatest actions or had the greatest actions throughout their lives, but there's an underlying key why negative things can happen that is so often overlooked. And technically, we're going to talk about 4 of those keys today. And so let's dive in. So starting with number 4, what can happen is a person can have a feeling of pride and hardship, where they've had a lot of hardship going on, or they even, this is what can happen, and I've seen it so often, is that a person may have a feeling like maybe they want to connect with somebody else and other people are struggling. And so inside they feel as though if they're struggling too, that it creates a connection. And they may even feel guilt. If their life is great and wonderful and fantastic and maybe people around them, their life isn't as good, what can happen is a person can literally feel guilty or undeserving, or they would feel bad if things were great in their life. And instead, they can feel this feeling that, okay, well, if my friend or my family are struggling or whatnot, then it makes them feel better. Now, of course, consciously, they don't want that struggle, but that can happen at a subconscious level, and it can impact you. And so it can, of course, unfortunately, attract negative circumstances and situations into a person's life. So that is number 4. Now, going to number 3 is that sometimes people will have very rigid punishment programming where they feel like they should be punished. They feel guilty if they do this thing or this thing. They feel guilty over nothing, and even if you think about that's my example of survivor's guilt. If you know my story, part of what impacted me with my healing and injury and all of that was a feeling of surviving the events of 9/11, but feeling guilty about it. So that doesn't make any sense. But even when these patterns don't make logical sense, they can still impact us. And I see that all of the time. I'll see people who feel guilty for feeling like they're a bad mother, even though when they stop and look at it, and I laugh because I'll say, wait a second, what are you doing? And they really start to realize they're not horrible, but because they weren't perfect, they're beating themselves up. So then they feel guilty. So then they end up with health issues or problems or whatnot, or that contributes to it. And so that can be another thing, is these punishment, guilty patterns and feeling bad. So that's number 3. Now going to number 2, it is this. Number 2, what can happen is that people maybe inside of their head feel like they feel like other people should be punished. So because they have these patterns, they feel like, oh, so-and-so is bad, so-and-so is a sinner, or so-and-so is doing something wrong. So they have a lot of rigid patterns about wanting to punish others, and it's not necessarily that they're wanting to do that themselves, but just this feeling that others deserve punishment. Others deserve punishment. And so it's a very punishing pattern, even though it's not meant or intended from a negative place. It's just their belief system or their feelings inside. And so there's a strong belief. Now, the problem is of course, the more that the mind is filled with, oh, this person should be punished and this person should be punished, it can then reflect back to self, feeling like self should be punished. And so that can continue to show up. And I see that all of the time. And so you want to pay attention to that, because if you're feeling like others need to be punished, then it can reflect. And so instead, if people make a mistake, instead wish them kindness, wish them correction, wish them course correction and kindness. And because, the truth of it is I know that that's counterintuitive, but let's be honest. If everybody around the world was just kind and loving and in great integrity, what would our world look like? It would be amazing and beautiful and incredible. And conversely, if we look around the world and everybody's being punished for every mistake they've ever made, and we look around the world and this person's being punished and they're being punished and they're being punished and they're being like, what does the world look like? So I know some people might say, how could you wish everybody kindness and correction? But let's be honest, wouldn't that be fantastic? Like if everybody just kindly corrected, um, the world would be absolutely incredible. So wish them correction. Not only that, but then if you make a mistake, then what reflects back to you is not, oh, I need to be punished and you should feel horrible. It is, okay, I made a mistake. Let me give myself kindness and correction. And so it's really that awareness of correcting, because let's be honest, we're human beings and we can make mistakes, and that's what's true. You look at a 5-year-old, are they going to make mistakes? Absolutely. A 20-year-old, are they probably going to make mistakes? Absolutely. And so, just having that framing regarding punishment can really be good for you and for the energy around you. So just food for thought. So that was number 2. And then the number 1, the last reason that I'll see it is all of the time people might feel this sense of feeling like they're a great person. And so they automatically feel like, well, I'm a good person. I do deserve a good life. And they feel that way consciously. And then at a deeper level, they're not really changing their patterns. And the truth of it is that even if we're a great person, if we're not really changing those underlying patterns, then they can still show up in life. And, the example that I talk about with repatterning all of the time is that, in psychology, unfortunately, it's well known that a woman may have an abusive father and leave him and find the abusive boyfriend, boss, spouse, etc. That pattern can unfortunately continue. And of course, that's not because she's a bad person or she deserves it, but the pattern can unfortunately continue. And that is true in everybody's life, not with that same scenario, but maybe it's a hardship pattern or a rejection pattern or an upset pattern. I mean, these subconscious patterns can continue. And so sometimes what will happen is people will say, well, I'm a good person and I deserve a great life. And they feel that way. But at an underlying subconscious feeling, they still have these patterns that are running, that are showing up in a variety of different ways. And the truth of it is we are human beings and we come in and we have different patterns, and addressing them and changing them and transforming them helps us to, of course, heal and change our entire lives. And so those are some of the reasons that I see. And again, just because I get that question so often, people say exactly that. Why do bad things happen to good people? And of course, patterns. The subconscious mind can be so counterintuitive, but once we really master it, it can be so pivotal. Now, that really leads to another insight, which is this, is that sometimes, a lot of times, when people start working with their minds, they don't think about the distinctions between emotions. Like a distinction, to me, is everything. It's like, the analogy you hear me use is like somebody who's playing music. Let's say somebody's playing a guitar or a musical instrument or singing or whatnot. A C note and a G note are very different, or a G and a G sharp are very different. And if they're going to master that, then they need to know, if they're going to, master music, they need to know that these notes are different. They're hugely different. But to somebody who isn't really skilled in music, they might say, oh, well, it's so close, it's pretty much the same. Oh, a G and a G sharp, same. When it's not. So those distinctions, or, somebody with a computer who's not necessarily really great at it might say, oh, well, you just do this simple thing. But somebody who's really good at programming and doing all the things with the computer, they've got a whole different level of awareness of what's going on at a deeper level. And that is so true with the subconscious mind, is that the more you understand the specifics, the easier it is to really change that. And when you stop and think about it, I mean, what do a lot of people do as far as mind programming? They kind of, a lot of people want to, think positively or meditate or whatnot. And I get it. Or breath work or whatnot. And all those things could be nice in some ways, but also really understanding the mind. That's what was pivotal for me. It changed everything. I had been working with my mind for many, 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 many years, over 6 years, trying everything, from every single thing that I could, every program out there, everything, trying to heal, trying to change all of the things. But when I really applied myself, understood how the mind worked, that's when everything changed. And of course, you hear me say all the time, with people with multiple personality disorder, that was pivotal just in seeing, and if you're new to this, by the way, people with multiple personality disorder can have different illnesses in different personalities. And it's consistent. So one personality can have one illness, and a different personality can have a completely different illness that's medically shown, medically documented, even though it's the same physical body. And that to me was eye-opening. Now, of course, that wasn't enough to heal. I still had to figure out how the mind worked. But that's the thing, is when it comes to patterns and these subconscious, patterns or emotions and energies that are going on at a deeper level, when we really identify them and what's going on for you, and you really change it, it's incredible. It's life-changing, health-changing, happiness, everything. So these are the insights that I wanted to share with you today, is exactly that, is just that, good things can happen, and they can keep happening, and they can keep growing and expanding. And for so many people, I see that very thing where they're changing, they're growing, and life is just getting better and better and happier and happier. But it does take a real change. It does take a real change. So just those are the insights from today. And by the way, if you are somebody who is new to healing, if you're wondering questions like, how do you heal yourself? How do you get results? How do you work with the mind? What is the key to healing and self-healing and all of that? I do have a training on my website at BrandyGillmore.com. You can come join the training, or you can go to the link and get that training also. So ultimately, what I'd love to see is everybody heal themselves, change their life. So that is my hope, of course. And on that note, I ask you to please take just a quick moment to hit the share button on this episode. Share it with somebody you love, somebody you care about, or somebody you don't even know. Because the more that every single person in our world is happy and healthy and loved and loving, the better this world is for all of us. And so please do take a moment to hit the share button, and please do have an incredible rest of your day.